Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about every single book that I've read so far this year. It is currently the end of July right now, so we're a little over halfway through the year. I figured I would do like a whole half-year wrap-up, I guess, and talk about every book I've read this year, a little summary about it, and what I rated it. I am so happy to say that I've read so far 31 books this year. My goal is 50, so I'm honestly like right on track to meet my 50 book goal. I have all of the books that I read right back here behind me, so let's go ahead and talk about them. I'm gonna try to do this as quick as possible because I don't want to do too long of a summary. I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of these books and what they're about, and I've explained them multiple times on my channel, so I don't want to go too far in depth, but I will be giving a quick summary, my opinion obviously, and what I rated the book. Alright, we're gonna start with the right side first. So the first book I have is Flawless. This is the first book in the Chestnut Springs series. It is a found family, so we're basically following this family throughout a 5-book series, telling the stories of the different brothers. One is a cousin, and then one is just one of the family friends. This is definitely my favorite book so far in the series. This tells the story of Summer and Rhett. Rhett is a bull rider. Summer is kind of like his agent slash babysitter. I love this book so much. It was so cute, and Rhett was just so sweet to Summer, and I just loved their relationship. So this one I actually rated 5 stars. I believe this was my first 5-star of the year. Also, I feel like I should say this is not in any particular order. I'm just going off of how I grabbed them. I did not put them like in order at all. Up next we have Heartless by Allyssa. Again, this is the second book in the Chestnut Springs series. This tells the story of Willa and Cade, and Cade is a single dad. Willa comes because he is looking for a babysitter, and she ends up staying in the house with them. You know what happens from there. So I really enjoyed this one. This one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. One thing I love about this series is that you always see all the different characters coming in throughout the books and just kind of like sprinkled in there. I love that. We saw Rhett and Summer in this one. The next book I have here is Powerful. This is the novella after Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and you guys, I love this book so much. It was so sweet, and I just loved seeing Adina's point of view because we didn't see that in the first book. Please do not skip this book at all. I love it so much, and it was only like 200 pages, and my favorite book so far in the series, honestly. I haven't read Reckless yet. I am going to read that one after my current read. Next book I have is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. I'm actually so glad that I finally picked up this book because I've had it on my shelf for so long. This is like a mystery thriller. It tells the story of how this guy has gone missing. We have 2 different timelines. So we have the story of how the guy went missing. We also have the storyline of Kaya and how she grew up. She grew up very much on her own. Her family wasn't very present. Her dad was abusive. This book is super sad. I also watched the movie. I think they're both honestly really good. I think I gave this one 3.5 stars. So next we have the Inheritance Games series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Whoa, look how yellow the middle book is. That's the one I took up with me on vacation. That's funny. We have the Inheritance Games, the Hawthorne Legacy, and the Final Gambit. I actually have the 4th book back here, down here. I don't know if it's the 4th book or if it's like a spin-off series. It is the Brothers Hawthorne, and I still have not read that. So I actually really enjoyed the first 2 books, the Inheritance Games and the Hawthorne Legacy. I thought that they were both super interesting. The storyline that we're following is about a girl, and she doesn't really come from much. She's living with her sister. This guy shows up at her school one day and tells her that she is inheriting all this money from this guy who has passed away. She has no idea who the guy is and does not know like how she has any connection to him or why she is getting the money. Yeah, so you're basically following the story of her trying to navigate that, as well as all of the grandsons of this guy who really didn't get anything, and they're just very confused, like, why did this random girl get all this money? The man who passed away was very into like riddles, so throughout the 3 books you're trying to solve all of these riddles and just kind of figure out why or how she is related. I think the first 2 books were really good. Once we got to the 3rd book, I felt like it was basically just like snowballing these things onto the story just to make it longer, and I just felt it was very unnecessary almost. I don't even think I finished the 3rd book actually. I remember listening to the audiobook, and I think I got like halfway through, and I was just to the point where it's like, okay, this has nothing to do with like the original plot line. I feel like it's already been solved and we've already like figured out everything. I don't know, it just felt like it was dragging on, and I have not thought about it since. I really have no interest to figure it out. Oh, I just realized I read the Inheritance Games at the end of last year, so this technically doesn't count, but I gave this a 3 out of 5. The Hawthorne Legacy was also a 3 out of 5. This one I didn't finish. so I guess a DNF. Overall, like a 3-star series. Nothing super special, but it was fun while it lasted. The next book I have is Too Late by Colleen Hoover. You guys, this book was absolutely insane. I had a friend recommend this book to me. It had been a while since I picked up a Colleen Hoover book. This is obviously a very different genre. This is like a mystery, not even mystery, just like a dark romance almost. Mafia kind of. Overall, this book was super interesting. I feel like I finished this in like 2 days. Very engaging. Colleen Hoover's writing is always very fast-paced and quick and easy to read. It was just unlike anything I've ever read of hers. I feel like there were points where I was just like, what the heck is happening? Like literally jaw on the floor. I think when I finished this, my jaw was on the floor. It's crazy if you like dark romance and you like what the heck just happened books. This one's definitely for you. Overall, I actually gave this 4.5 stars because it was so shocking to me and did keep me so engaged. So a recent read is Look a Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. This is a mystery thriller book, and it's actually been a while since I read one of these, so I ended up listening to this on audiobook just because I wanted to get into something that was a little bit more suspenseful. This tells the story of a daughter who goes missing as well as the mother that goes missing, and you're basically trying to figure out what happened. I did enjoy this book. There were points throughout the audiobook where I was genuinely like so engaged and like really excited to figure out what was going on. The one thing I will say about this is that there were so many different points of view and timelines that it did get a little bit confusing, especially listening to it, because I had to like think back and remember, who is this person, why are they important, and what timeline is going on right now. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a dislike, but it just did get a little bit confusing. So it was a really good story and very interesting up until the end. Honestly, like I feel like I didn't predict really anything that was gonna happen, so that's really good about it. Probably give this a 3-star now. I think I gave it a 3.5 before, but I feel like it's a 3-star, and a 3-star is not a bad rating. I need to tell myself a 3-star is not a bad rating, because I feel so bad giving anything under a 3-star. I feel like it's like the worst book ever, but I feel like 3 stars is honestly, like 3 stars isn't a medium. It was good, but nothing super crazy. Going back to my first book that I ever read this year, this was Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is the book before Powerful, which is the novella that I talked about that was 5 stars for me. This is the first story. This tells the story of Peyton and Kai. I'm not even gonna try to explain this. I feel like you guys have probably seen this all over the internet. If you have anything to do with books or enjoy books, like you know what this book is about. It's very much like the Hunger Games. They're put into trials. This was really, really good. I think I enjoyed it more when I originally read it than I do like thinking back to it. I feel like I really need to reread this because I listened to so much of it on audiobook. I just really was not paying that close of attention, to be so honest. And I think physically reading the book would be so much better. I physically read Powerful and I loved it so much more. Like, I feel like Lauren Roberts does have very poetic writing and just something that like all of us want to read. I think that actually physically reading the book would be a lot better. I did physically read the end of it, which is why only the end is tabbed, but I honestly would really like to go back and reread this. But I also want to get into Reckless, so I'm like, I don't know if I ever will. I think I gave this 4.5 stars when I first read it, so like I obviously felt a certain way about it, but I don't know if I just rated that because everyone loved it and I was like, I feel like I have to rate it super highly. I feel like I'd probably give it like a 4-star. Up next we have Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is a hockey romance. It tells the story of Anastasia and Nate. She is a figure skater and he is a hockey player. They both go to the same college. I actually DNF'd this book. I got 180 pages in, I think. And I just wasn't enjoying it. There's way too much smut in it and I don't know, it just wasn't for me. There were so many characters, I was getting very confused who everyone was. I just really honestly did not enjoy the storyline and I felt it was like a waste of time if I was to keep going, so I DNF'd this. Okay guys, next we have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is the first book in the trilogy. I talked about this series so much. I've also talked about the Caraval series so much. Caraval is another trilogy by Stephanie Garber. Read that series first before you get into this. They give so much backstory. You have to read that series first, in my opinion. But I finally started this and I'm so happy I did. I've had this book for so long, honestly, and I don't know why I put it off for such a long time, but I'm so happy I finally read it. I love this book. I actually gave it originally 4.5 stars and I bumped it up to a 5-star because I just have not been able to stop thinking about it. I so badly need to get into The Ballad of Never After, which is the second book in this. I don't know why. Why do I put off these books that I really want to read? Like, I feel like this plotline is so confusing to explain So if you're interested, just look up the premise of it, but you should read it. It's really, really good. All right, the next book I have is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This is a book that has an interconnected standalone with Part of Your World, which is another book by Abby Jimenez that I read last year. I loved this book so much, honestly. I have not been able to stop thinking about it since I read it. This tells a story about Brianna and Jacob. They both work in the same hospital together. They are doctors. Jacob is new into town, so Brianna is kind of showing him around, and there's a fake dating trope in this. It touches so much on mental health and anxiety, and it was honestly so good. They write little letters to each other, which I also loved in this. Like, honestly, thinking back to this, there's so much of this book that I love. I give this a 4.25. I have not been able to stop thinking about it, and that's how you know it's a good book. Highly recommend this one. Then we have the third and the fourth book in the Chestnut Springs series. So we have Powerless. This is a hockey romance, but there's hockey involved, but it's honestly, like, it's not even the focus in the book at all. It's very much on the back burner in the book. This tells the story of Jasper and Sloan. Jasper is a family friend of the Eaton brothers, and then we have Sloan, which is their cousin. They grew up spending a lot of time together and around each other a lot, so it's kind of like best friends to lovers. I did enjoy this book. It was a little bit spicier than the other books in the series, which brought it down a little bit for me, but overall I still really enjoyed it, and I give it 4 out of 5 stars. And then we have Reckless, which is the fourth book. This tells the story of Theo and Winter. So Winter is Summer, who is from the first book. It's her sister. Theo is another bull rider, so he is very close to Rhett. So Rhett and Summer are very present in this book. We get to see a lot of them. It just takes you throughout their story of connecting and getting to know each other, and I really enjoyed this book. I loved Theo in this. I feel like he was so attentive and just very caring about Winter, and it really showed. Just thinking back to this book, it just gives me chills. Like, it was so good, and overall this was a 4.5 out of 5 star for me. This is a very close second behind Flawless, so I love this one. Okay. Up next, I reread Happy Place by Emily Henry. You guys know, if you've been watching my channel, this is one of my all-time favorite books. I love Emily Henry. I really love all of her books. I was very excited to reread this, and I'm so glad that I did, and I cannot wait to go reread it again. Like, truly, I feel like there were so many things that popped out to me the second time reading, and I was in such a different place in my life when I first read this book, and just the 2 different timelines of my life, the way I was able to connect in such a different way this time was so good. Was so good. I loved it. I went through and actually tabbed it this time because I did not tab it the first time I read it. 5 stars, obviously. Like 6 stars, honestly. Next up, I have Heartbreak Houseshare. This is by Emily Merrill. This tells a story of a girl who is recently going through a breakup. She moves in with these 3 other girls into like an apartment, and she's kind of just navigating her life post-breakup and just all of the things that you go through. She ends up making like this 20s list with her roommates where she has all of these things that she wants to accomplish while she's in her 20s. It just takes you throughout that and just like navigating, making new friends. I wish I would have read this a different time in my life. I feel like I would have connected to it so much more, but overall it was really interesting. I will say it did kind of take a turn that I wasn't really expecting. I just was not expecting there to be this other plot line that we had. I just feel like the story would have been a lot more moving and inspiring if it took a different turn, if that makes sense. But yeah, overall I think it was a good representation of what it's like to be in your 20s and not know what to do after a breakup, because literally uprooting your life and changing everything you know about it, and it can be really scary. This was a 3 out of 5 star for me. I'm glad I finally read it. So we have I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I actually listened to this on audiobook, which was super interesting because Jeanette is actually the one that narrates the book, so we really get to see and hear from her perspective. If you don't know, Jeanette McCurdy was in iCarly, and she was also in Sam and Cat, which is shows that I watched all the time growing up. I loved both of those shows so much, so I was actually really interested to read this and hear her story and hear all the things that she went through throughout her childhood. Huge trigger warnings. Look up the trigger warnings before reading this because there are a lot of different heavy topics. So heartbreaking and sad. It just changes my perspective on everything, and I can't even imagine having to go through the things that she went through. I do think that if you did grow up watching the shows, you should really read this because it just changes everything, honestly. Up next, I have Things You Save in a Fire by Catherine Center, and this is another book that I listened to on audiobook. This tells the story of Cassie. She is a firefighter. She has to move her life to a different town to take care of her mom and be with her mom. And so she has to quit a certain fire department and try to get a job at a new fire department. The town that she goes to, they've never had a woman on their fire department, so that's kind of like a big theme throughout the story. and just something that she's really trying to navigate, being the only girl and like trying to prove herself. I feel like overall this book was really cute. There is a lot of healthcare in here because obviously she is a firefighter, so it was really cute and I did enjoy it. I'm excited to get into another one of her books just because I've heard so many good things about her as an author. I give this 4.25 stars. All right, let's go to the left side. First one I have is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This is another mystery thriller. So this is the first book that I picked up from Riley Sager. Thinking back to it, I really enjoyed it. It was very engaging. I definitely finished this in like 2 days, so it was super fast paced. Writing was really easy to get into and follow along with. I would say this is a little bit more paranormal than other mystery thrillers that I've read. Casey, I believe, is an actor. She is the main character in this. She's kind of isolated at her lake house, and she has these neighbors that move in across the lake. They have a house where you can pretty much see everything, like it's all glass windows. Some suspicious things start to happen. You basically are just following along trying to figure out what is so different about these neighbors that just moved in. I feel like this was a really good book. Honestly, I really enjoyed reading it. I gave this 3.5 stars. Next up we have The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. This is another mystery thriller book. The husband in this book goes missing, so the wife and the stepdaughter are trying to figure out what happened to him and where he is, why he ran away, all of that. I did not like this book at all. This was like 2 out of 5 stars for me, maybe 1 star. Like, I really did not like this book. I didn't even finish it. I think I had like 50 pages left before the ending that I didn't finish, and I just looked up the ending. Honestly, I feel like the writing in this was just so amateur. I don't know, it just wasn't for me. Another book I read was Scythe by Neal Shusterman. This is a dystopian book. This is the only dystopian book that I read this year. I haven't read a dystopian in so long, like since I read The Maze Runner probably. Premise of this is that death is pretty much conquered. There's no way to naturally die. So we have scythes, which are hired or trained for population control. They basically go around killing people. I will say the plot got a little bit repetitive in this. It was definitely interesting. It made me think a lot, like question like what would happen truly if like our world got to this point. We also have journal entries in here. Just kind of leave things open for your discretion and just really make you think. This is a series. I don't know how many books are in this series. I think like 3, maybe with a novella. I truly don't know if I will ever continue this series. I do think it was interesting. I'm glad that I read it. I just don't know if I'm interested enough to see what is going to happen in the next book. The ending was definitely shocking, but I'm like, do I even care enough to know what's gonna happen? I don't know. At the time when I read this, this was a 3.75 stars. My ratings are so weird. I don't even understand them. The next book I have is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. Again, mystery thriller. We have a lot of mystery thrillers over here. This tells a story of a girl. She is moving into this apartment because apparently to live in this apartment you can get paid like to live there. They give you money to live there. First red flag, I would say, personally. And she does it. She's just very desperate and she ends up moving into this apartment. Some weird things that start to happen, some weird people. I didn't finish this. I think there was like 100 pages left before I finished it. I don't know, it just gave me a very eerie vibe. The story just took a turn that I was not enjoying. I don't really know if this needs an explanation, honestly. If you're new to my channel, this is my all-time favorite book literally ever. This is the 5th book in the Magnolia Parks series. Just thinking about this, oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Please read this series if you haven't read it. All for this book. This book makes it worth it. I will say, this is the 5th book in the series. The first 2 books I was not in love with. Like honestly, I think I gave them like 3.5 stars. It gets better. Keep going. It gets so much better. I really want to reread the whole series. 6 stars. Anyways, I'm done being dramatic, but basically this series, I don't want to give too much away. Obviously it's very much into the series at this point. This book just dove into so many topics I'm so glad we got into, because it just gives so much explanation why the characters are the way they are, how they grew up, what their family life was like, what has led them to do these things. And that's like one of the biggest things I love about reading, is getting to know why people are the way they are. I really enjoy that. Maybe I should have went to school for psychology. I'm so excited for the 6th book to come out, the Daisy Hates book. The next book I have is A Funny Story by Emily Henry. So this was her new release. This came out in April. This tells the story of Miles and Daphne. Very weird dynamic here. Daphne has just ended things with her fiance, and he goes off and starts dating and gets married to this girl whose ex-boyfriend is Miles. Kind of a little square going on here, if you will. Daphne moves in with Miles and they're both trying to navigate life post-breakup and they decide to do it together. They're obviously both going through very hard times. Yeah, I read this on vacation. I feel like it was a super fun vacation read. It's not one of my favorite Emily Henry books. I feel like I did not connect to the characters or the love story. I felt like overall the conversations and the way that the characters was very mature. I did not know where the plot was going at all. Like, till the end, I really didn't know how the story was going to finish, and I really like that about it. I feel like for a romance, you typically know like how the story is going to end, but for me, I didn't think it was obvious at all. I don't know, I just really enjoyed that about it. This was a 4 out of 5 stars. I will always love Emily Henry and her writing. There's just so many deeper things to her writing, and that's like one of the reasons I love her so much. It wasn't anything amazing, but I did enjoy it for the most part. Up next, I did a reread of If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nowlin. This is a YA romance book. I read this last year and we had the new book coming out, so I wanted to reread this one. I literally read this in like a day. 5 stars. Again, I rated it 5 stars both times. I love it so much. Oh, just thinking about the characters makes me so happy. I truly love this book a lot. Then I got into the second book, which was If Only I Had Told Her. I was so excited to get into this, you guys. I wanted to like this book more. Obviously, I loved seeing the characters again and seeing what happened. Oh my god. My heart literally just broke thinking about this. I'm not even joking. It's so crazy how words on paper can make you feel so much. I'm literally gonna cry. I loved seeing the characters again and seeing different points of view. I wish it did follow a different storyline, and there was one character's point of view in here that I wasn't necessarily eager to see. I wish we would have gotten someone else's, but overall I did like it, and I feel like you should read it if you have read the first one, just because it gives some closure. I don't know, just being with the characters again, I feel like is worth it enough for me. I don't even remember what I rated this. My rating for this was 3.5 out of 5 stars, so not anywhere close where I rated the first one, but I still think that it's a good book and that you should read it if you've read the first one. We have The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. This is the first adult romance that I read by her. This is a fake dating trope. This tells a story about Jack and Hallie. They meet at a wedding, have like this one night thing, and they find each other on a dating app. They're both like trying to find their one true love, and then they end up making up this competition of who can find true love first. They decide after they go on these dates, they like go at the same place. If the date doesn't go well, then they will come together and have dinner together and like talk about why the date didn't go well. You know, it just happens from there. This book was really cute. It was super cheesy. The tension was really good in this. There was definitely miscommunication, and I was like screaming at the book, why can't you just tell each other? Like, it was a little bit frustrating, but this was a 3.75 stars for me. I really enjoyed it. Up next is Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. This is a second chance romance. Huge gap of time where the characters don't see each other, so they met in college and then they see each other again 11 years later, I think 15 years later actually. Basically throughout the story, it's a dual timeline, so we have present time as well as past tense when they first met each other. I did not like this book that much at all. There were a lot of things that just frustrated me. The characters just seemed very immature, honestly. The writing just wasn't good. Like, I'm gonna be so honest. I'm so sorry to the author. Like, this felt like a YA book when they were full-on adults. I'd probably give this like 2 stars, maybe like 1.5 stars. This is a recent read for me, so I just recently read Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This is the second book after Divine Rivals, which I read end of last year. We're basically just picking up where the first book left off. If you don't know, the first book is about these 2 characters. They are rivals at this newspaper company, and they are both fighting for this position together. There are magical typewriters involved, and there's this war involved also. This is the second one, picking up basically exactly where the first book left off. It's also a romantasy. I don't know if I said that. I actually enjoyed this a lot more than the first one, which is surprising because I feel like it's usually the other way around. I really connected a lot more to the characters in this one. I feel like I didn't really connect to them much in the first one. I really enjoyed this. Like, oh, this just gives me smiles thinking back to it. Like, the love that the characters have for each other gets so deep rooted and so gentle. If you have not read this duology, I highly recommend. It's so good. I give this 4 out of 5 stars. Honestly, I feel like this is like a 4.5 star for me. We have The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This is a mystery thriller book. I'm sure you guys have probably heard about this. This book is so popular. This is the first book. There is 2 other books after this, which I have not gotten into yet, but I really should because this one was really good. I literally read this in 4 hours on a flight. It was really good. It was super engaging, super interesting. Like, I was literally on the edge of my seat. This tells a story about a girl. She is becoming a live-in maid for this family. Some weird things start to happen in the house. It was just so good. Like, I could not put this down. This was a 4.5 star for me. Didn't give me 5-star feelings, but 4.5 stars. It was really good. Last but not least, we have the first 3 books in the acotar series. So we have A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruin. Still have 2 more to go. I'm actually currently reading A Court of Frost and Starlight, so I'm almost done with it. How do I even explain this? I'm just gonna read the back to you because it's a little bit confusing. When 19-year-old huntress Farah kills a wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragging to a treacherous magical land she knows about only from legends, Farah discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal, immoral fairies who once ruled her world. At least he's not a beast all the time. As she adapts to her new home, her feelings for the fairy, Tamlin, transform from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But something is not right in the fairylands. An ancient, wicked shadow is growing, and Farah must find a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and his world forever. But yeah, so this is the first book. So I started this series in March, and acotar, so the first one I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was good, but honestly, like, it wasn't anything super crazy, and it made me question the hype a little bit about it because I don't know, I just didn't connect to it, I feel like, as much as other people did. But keep going. Just keep going. Okay, so that's the first one. Then I got into the second one, A Court of Mist and Fury, and this one was so much better. So much better. This one was 5 stars for me. Originally, I think I gave it 4.75, but this one was just really good, and I upped it to 5 stars because I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. This basically just continues the story. I don't want to give anything away. So A Court of Wings and Ruin, this is the 3rd book, and this one was a 4 out of 5 stars for me. So it's part of the series. I still really enjoyed it, but I did feel like it kind of dragged on a little bit until the very last, like, 100 pages. It was a little bit slow. I love the characters and I love learning more about them, so this was 4 out of 5 stars for me. Like I said, I'm currently reading the 4th book in it, which is really, really short. I think it's like maybe 200 pages, maybe not even that much. I'm listening to it on audiobook. I think it's just kind of like a filler book. It's like a novella. I don't really know what all is gonna happen, but so far it's pretty slow. So as for my current read, I'm so proud of myself for actually getting to this book, you guys. Okay, I should not be making that face because that's not the face that I was making last night, bawling my eyes out to this. I'm currently reading A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I am on page 609, so I have like a little bit under 200 pages to go. Not to be dramatic, but you guys, this book is heart-wrenching. This is another book that literally thinking about it could just make me cry. And I feel so connected to the characters too, that just makes it 10 times worse. If you want to read this book, look up the trigger warnings. It is not a book to read if you are not in a good mental state. I thought it was bad, and then it got worse, and then it got worse, and it's still getting worse. It's very heavy. With that being said, I think it gives great insight into what mental health can be like and people who are struggling with mental health. I'm doing a reading vlog reading it, so I feel like I'll probably go a little bit more in depth in that video. It really is like life-changing, opening my eyes to so much. I recommend it, but also please read at your discretion. Like, I'm so serious about that. I'm very proud of myself for actually like finally picking this up because I was just so intimidated, and it's such a large book. It's like 800 pages, so it's definitely not something that's super quick and easy to read. Anyways, that is my current read. Not to end the video in a very heavy heart, but that is actually all for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. We're on track to meet my 50 book goal. Hopefully maybe I'll get a little bit more than 50, but for right now we're definitely on track. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Comment down below your favorite book that you've read this year, how many books you've read this year. Just leave a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. That is all. I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. Nothing like your smile in the morning, following the linings on your cheek.